What's up everybody, Devin here from Naughty Boy RC, and in today's video we're building an RC F1 chassis by Mach4. Let's get into it. So this is the Formula One kit by Mach4. If you're not familiar with them, that's okay. Not a lot of people here in the States know about them. They're fairly popular over in Europe. There's quite a few people that run them and do well on both foam and rubber tires, outdoors and indoors. Now another reason you might not have heard of them is because this is the only car they've had, and they've had it for a very long time. When talking to ITAL Trading about the Mach4 chassis, they said they're still going to support it and it's not going anywhere. So they are very passionate about this car, and who knows, maybe we'll see some more on-road offerings from them in the future. But for now, we're focusing on this kit. Starting off with the manual, you do get this little guy with some other languages on it. And then the manual itself, it has a bunch of different pictures. It has all the parts laid out nice and easy to see. This should be a fairly simple and quick, straightforward build. There's not a lot to these on-road cars, which is nice, and most of the time they do go together very easy. And if you're wondering why the manual is crunched up a little bit, that's because we actually did an unboxing of this car on our TikTok. We brought this brand over about August of 2024. We are the sole distributor here in the United States, and we do stock the kits and all parts for this cars. Links will be down in the description below. The next wad of parts has a bunch of different bags inside. We can see some body posts. Looks like the diff is in this bag, or at least the outdrives. We got some aluminum goodies in there and some more carbon fiber as well. Extra bag one has a shock in there along with a gear and some hardware. We have another big bag with some shock oils, some grease, some more aluminum parts in there. It looks like our carbon fiber arms are in there also. Of course, you gotta have stickers with any RC kit. We got some nice Mach4 stickers in there. And finally, in bag one, we got that beautiful carbon fiber chassis and our rear pod deck. And for that, it's saying to go ahead and sand the edges and apply some CA glue to help prevent any fracturing and cracks. So that's where we're gonna start with. It doesn't specify what grit sandpaper to use, so I'm just using some real low grit, and I'm just gonna go very gently on here because I do not want to take much material off. Just enough for that glue to stick to. This stuff is super thin and dangerous. Some old glue we had laying in the fridge. So, just gotta go very lightly on here or you will soak everything. Alright, first step's gonna be getting those bushings in. There's 6 of them, basically one on each corner of the triangle all the way through. And for that, you gotta push them up through, and then unfortunately it's an E-clip, but they are very big, so it shouldn't be too hard to get on there. Alright, once you get those screws in there, measure them, make sure they're 3mm, and then we'll move on to step 3. The chassis is pretty much dry. There's a couple spots that are a little tacky, so we're going to be careful. But we're going to go ahead and get these 2 pieces in bag 3 installed. At this step, it also does recommend using thread locks into these parts, so we're going to do that just to be safe. This next part's going to require a little bit of force, so I'm actually just going to set the chassis down here. And those balls that we put on earlier on the A-arms, we're going to have to clip them onto these balls on the chassis. And sometimes it does take a little bit of force. And we are going to press as hard as we can and hopefully try to get this down without cracking any of that carbon fiber. So I've had to cheat a little bit. We got 3 of the 4 on there. This last one though is giving me a very hard time. We're gonna trying my best not to crack or break anything here. Alright, and quickly found out the reason I couldn't get it. I thought, okay, maybe that droop screw needs to be backed out. Sure enough, it went on. Then I looked in our little tray and realized we still have 2 washers in there. So we gotta pop that arm back off and correctly put the washers on there, then it should snap in, no problem. Sure enough, it goes together a lot easier when you actually have the spacers in there and the screws can go down all the way. Alright, time to move on to bag 5. And bag 5 is going to be our spindles, which, similar to the other front suspension components, are aluminum also. One down, 1 to go. Bag 6, we do got some more carbon fiber goodies. You want to make sure the 2 to 6 is facing up, and then the 3x8mm screws are going to go in the back. 3x6 are going to go in the front of this piece, and there is a little spacer to go on the 8mm in the back. Let's go ahead and get this done. Alright, that centerpiece is done. Now we're moving on to these lower arms. And for that, it is going to be more E-clips, but again, they're big and they snap on pretty easy with a pair of pliers. Now, if you had a servo, this would be the step you go ahead and install it in the car, but we're not doing electronics right now, so we're just gonna go ahead and get this mount put in and move on to the next step. All right, bag 9 finishes up the front end. We do have some tie rods here, which I hate to do, but thankfully the kit includes grease, so we're gonna give it a dab in there, get those ends on, and make sure it measures up to 28mm on both sides. Gosh darn. Messed up again. Thankfully it's an easy fix. Alright, the front and middle of this car are all complete. Let's go ahead and get that rear end started with bag 10. Now it says in the manual very specifically do not over tighten these screws, so we're not doing the electric driver. We're going to be doing these by hand and just very carefully snugging them barely. Alright, moving on to bag 11, there's a ton more carbon fiber and aluminum. First of all, you got your aluminum red posts, red aluminum spring mounts, your back support plate / bumper, rear end, whatever you might want to call it, that is also red aluminum. Your motor mounts are black aluminum, upper pod is carbon fiber of course, and your side links are just a plastic composite to give it flex. got some suspension on that boy. Alright, so now at the end of step 11, that's when you go back and tighten up those 2 screws at the bottom of the base plate. But as you can see, the suspension, everything on this car moves nice and free, which is exactly what we want. Now we're moving on to the rear axle and the diff setup, so let's get on it. This is our new angle tool stand, by the way. Links will be down in the description if you're interested, but it also makes a great diff and axle holder. Diff balls are in easy peasy. Usually I just rub with just a tiny bit more grease around the edge there. Flip it over, make sure we got a little bit of grease on the other side. And then from there, just finish putting the diff together. So bag 13 is going to be that side damper, and they actually do give you a spare one. Also, you don't get spare ball ends, but you do get a spare damper. And then this is the point where you're going to slide that rear axle into the bearing carriers. Almost lost the bearing. And we're going to stick on that left side hub, which is also aluminum, and this one's just a clamping style. So you get it up there nice and snug, screw your 2 screws in, and you're good to go. Make sure this gets greased real good. Now what's really cool is the Mach4 rear shock actually already comes pre-assembled. It's completely aluminum. The only thing composite are the ends. The only thing you're gonna have to do though is fill it full of fluid and bleed it. The fluid is included, it does come separate. While we're waiting for that shock fluid to finish getting the air bubbles out, now is a good time to go ahead and get into bag 15, where we're going to get these rear body posts on. Also in bag 15, we do have our front wheel bearings. We're just going to slide those on, and then we got our wheel nuts for the rest of the car. We'll go ahead and get those just set on there so they'll be ready when we add our wheels and tires later. Not a fan of bladder shocks without the bleed screw. Definitely got some rebound going there. Alright, the final bag, bag 16, it's going to have your other body post for the front. It's going to have your hardware so you can mount your front and rear wings. And then it's got all your body clips also. So, the next step is to get a body. Alright guys, we got that Team Saxo platypus body all cut out. I think it looks really great. We may end up having to trim a little bit more around the suspension, but it's going to mount up no problem. We got all our holes reamed except for that front, just because we got to wait to get some wings on there before we do that. But for now, let's go ahead and get some paint on this guy and work on getting this helmet screwed together and on the car. Probably won't get too crazy detailed on there. My fine art skills aren't the best if you haven't been able to tell by this video, but it'll still look good on there with this body, so let's get busy. Look how good this color turned out. It's a Tamiya copper with a metallic silver backing. This thing just looks absolutely gorgeous. Of course I screwed up a couple spots on there, but for the most part this looks really good. And I think it's gonna go really well with this red color, without a doubt. That is just absolutely gorgeous. Time for some stickers. And that's it, a completed Mach4 10 scale F1 RC car chassis. I'm just absolutely in love with that body color and the way it came out. It looks great. You could of course add some more detail to the helmet, make it look even better. At this point, of course, you'd add your own wings, wheels, tires, according to whatever track surface you're running on, and your electronics. Stay tuned for a part 2, where we'll hopefully have some running footage of this guy in action. And until then, remember, if you're interested in the Mach4, the body, or anything else in this video, links will be down in the description below, or you can head directly over to our website, www.naughtyboyrc.com. And remember, keep it naughty.